it was an opportunity for us to engage as a country bilaterally, but especially as it relates to the private sector space. And the history of Liberia and South Korea is deep, is rich. I'm proud to be a Liberian and stand on the shoulders of those who in the 50s were recognized for our support to the Korean War, to South Korea. We provided logistics support as a country to Korea, and we're thanked. We're amongst 4 nations thanked by the presidents: Liberia, Ethiopia, Morocco, and Egypt are the 4 African countries that supported Korea during the war. And that acknowledgement didn't go on deaf ears as it relates to our delegation. We took serious pride in that acknowledgement of the Liberian support to Korea. I also want to use the opportunity to thank the people of South Korea, the government and people, because they were responsible for all countries of Africa. They supported 10 people for participation. They made provisions for air flights and supported accommodation for 10 members of our delegation, including our head of state. And it's important for us to recognize that, and they did that across the board for all of the countries. The meeting in Korea was it started out as, firstly, the Foreign Minister Summit, very important. There were 3 different meetings. The Foreign Minister Summit happened first, where the foreign ministers of Africa gathered to discuss the joint declaration, to discuss the Korean vision for the Partnership for Africa, and to give our inputs into that. And for that foreign ministry's participation, I'm glad I was joined by 2 of the assistant ministers here with me today. Siwa Bai and Charlene Taylor joined me for the Foreign Ministers Summit. And we did participate actively, and we're part of the joint resolution that the heads of state delivered. The second part was the heads of state summit, and the third part was roundtables. We had Liberian business roundtables, and that's why it's important that Mr. Jeff Blibo is here, Honorable Blibo is here. This visit to Korea was not a pomp and pageantry visit. I'm proud to say that the Liberian delegation engaged deeply. From the day I arrived until we left, we were meeting companies, looking at private sector development, looking at foreign direct investment, looking at how we create jobs, talking about manufacturing, talking about technology, energy, and so forth. And I can tell you, behind me here, you have people who were going to the field hours away from Seoul. We had the Minister of Agriculture, we had Blibo, we had 2 of the president's ambassadors at large, Chris Onanuga and Mohamed Ba, going to see factories, going to see manufacturing outfits. And that exercise resulted in the 7 MOUs that were signed while we're in Korea. Deep engagement, all feet in the mud, all sleeves rolled up. We worked very diligently, sometimes into the night, engaging on some of the issues with some of the companies. I'm also proud to say that our president was able to have a bilateral with the president of Korea. And in that bilateral, we were asked to develop a proposal for infrastructural development for the government of Korea. We were also proud to tell them that the work that Korea has done here in the past with the road through Cape Mount to Bo Waterside that was done by a Korean company, Daewoo, that road stood the test of time. And the quality of the work that Korea did before, we look forward to that engagement on infrastructure support, looking at the quality that will come with that particular work. Let me share with you that the announcement made by Korea for the amount of money that we spend in Africa over the next period, the 24 billion, that amount of money, some MOUs were signed in relation to that, was a result of work done previously over the last year between the 2 countries. Since we've come into office, we've started to engage deeply. Liberia signed a partnership agreement with Korea back in the 80s under the leadership of President Doe. And President Doe visited Seoul and was conferred an honorary doctorate and so forth. Since that time, we have not had a full activation of that agreement, and this administration intends to do so. So we started the engagement on that. We're looking at the infrastructure proposal, we're looking at other sectors, and even in the next week, Minister Nutai, I will be engaging with the Minister of Agriculture. We had an initial engagement I did with the Minister of Agriculture, looking at how our bilateral engagement can be strengthened. And we'll be having a Zoom meeting very shortly. And I'm proud to report that as we come back, Liberia will now be ascending to a membership of the Korean Food and Agriculture Community. And as of August 2024, we'll be members of CAFACHI. Also, the Korean Rice Belt. We are not part of the Korean Rice Belt, only 8 African countries, and with our membership in CAPACHI, we're looking to be part of that Korean Rice Belt. Very important. And by November 2024, this year, with the deepening of the relationship, we're hoping to sign the Trade and Investment Partnership Framework with Korea that will open up the doors for trade and investment. That's something that will be work in progress. November marks 60 years of our relationship with Korea, and with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Korea and Ministry of Foreign Affairs Liberia, we intend to mark it with some MOUs and with some engagement around their financial support to infrastructure in our trade and investment portfolio. Also, for the Korea trip, I was able to spend some hours in Qatar, and I was able to meet the Minister of Transport of Qatar to discuss the possibility of Qatar Airways coming into Liberia. In addition to that, I was able to, with the President, discuss with some officials of Thailand while we're on our way back. And already we've communicated with Thailand the fact that we need to engage bilateral cooperation on support for agriculture, looking at their vast experience with rice, cassava, and others, and we've already sent a note for about the communique to open up that door. The second point to share with you is that we will be receiving 3,294 metric tons of rice, the Kennedy Round Food Aid from Japan, and that will be on June 18th. And this aid symbolizes Japan's ongoing commitment to the humanitarian support, but also the relationship between Japan and Liberia. Thirdly, the UN Security Council non-permanent seat. Liberia is officially vying for that seat for the term 2026-2027. We have put in place a campaign team. The structure of the campaign team is that I chair the campaign steering committee along with the ministers Craig and Yang, as well as Regional Goodrich Foreign Service Institute DG, as well as the permanent reps we have at AU, ECOWAS, and the United Nations as a steering committee. Under the steering committee, we have a campaign team that includes a team here in Liberia, a team at AU, ECOWAS, and the UN. I would like to ask Karishma Pelanrad and Sewa Ba and Charlie to come forward. Karishma is the chair of the home-based team. Sewa is the co-chair of the home-based team, and Charlie Taylor is a member. And I'm proud to say they are young women of Liberia. I really get a hand clap for that. But the campaign team will be responsible for ensuring that we work across the world with division of labor responsibilities across the different locations to ensure that Liberia gets the votes to have a seat at the table, noting Liberia's recent work we've done on peace and justice in our campaign. Our campaign slogan is towards peace and justice for all humanity, conveying Liberia's dedication and commitment to peace and justice for the world, and looking at the fact that Liberia has demonstrated our sustainable peace through our recent elections, for which we thank President Weah and former President Weah and President Boyka, and looking at the fact that we've signed on for the World Economic Crime Code. We're leading by example, and we believe our space on the Security Council should be secured because we have demonstrated our commitment to peace and security. Thank you. Also, I would like to speak fourthly about the Liberians that recently returned from Ghana. As you know, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the LRRC have been seized on this matter. We had a situation where Liberians, some of whom were refugees, some of whom were in different categories, had been living in Buduburam, and the place was demolished and had been living in temporary shelter. I would like to thank the President Joseph Boemak Boyka, for his leadership in ensuring that resources are made available, and the Ministry of Finance under dire envelopes were able 1,440 Liberians from Ghana. The total number registered 1,539, of which 261 were former refugees or considered refugees. Now, the process has been led by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and LRRC, but it's been supported by so many, and we thank the government of Ghana for the support, and the government of Ivory Coast as well. All of those who've been a part of the process of the repatriation. The Liberians brought home, the key word is Liberians. Home should always be home. And they are Liberians who have come from various circumstances, lots of difficulties, lots of trauma. Don't forget when they ran from here, some of them have been living in very difficult situations. Some of them have been through difficult and strenuous conditions. Yes, there have been there was an arrest made for drugs, and we do know that some have come with a need for rehabilitation, some have come with a need for different type of support, health, and shelter, and all kinds of support. But the funding that we have been able to release is to support some of that. But I want us to remember something. Liberia is a country that has demonstrated our love for humanity, our love for others. And I just shared what we did for Korea. When we didn't even have bilateral relationship for Korea, we went across the world to help them. Liberians, we must take care of our home. There's only one Liberia, and this Liberia is where all Liberians should find prosperity. No Liberian should have to stay somewhere else because they feel that home is not home. Home is home for all Liberians. And it's important that we continue to open up our arms, welcome our Liberians back home, and work together to make sure that they blend back in. Many of them have fears, they have some vulnerabilities and so forth, but we have to make sure that home feels like home for them, and it requires all Liberians to do that. I would like to also share with you that as we had with Korea, we'll be having with Japan, but Japan in August will only be the ministerial meeting, the foreign ministers meeting, but in September will also be China, the FOCAC, where we'll start with the foreign ministers summit, the ministerial summit, where we'll have the heads of state summit that will follow. But September will be a month of a lot of activities, because September is when we'll also have Summit of the Future, our president's participation, and he will be speaking. UNGA will be happening in September, but also we might have a potential state visit to Canada in September, as well as a global diaspora conference that will be held in the US as well. So there'll be a lot of activities in the US, but last but not least, we'll be launching our campaign. We'll be launching our campaign in New York at the UN headquarters, telling the world that Liberia is ready to lead in peace and security. And no matter how much you all may not see what we see, I want you to know that Liberia is well positioned to be able to lead by example, and we must rebrand Liberia, the Liberia that supported Korea, and today they thank us for their peace and for their development. The Liberia that was a signatory to the United Nations, the Liberia that's been home to Nelson Mandela and others who were seeking refuge, and so many carry our passport because we helped everybody. Liberia must regain her position, Liberia must take her place, and Liberia must be rebranded as a leader, not a follower. And that's the Liberia we're trying to convey to the world. And we depend on the media to help us carry that message, that we want our seat at the table, we want to be in that Security Council, and we deserve to be there. Destroying Liberia's image will not help any of us. We can only build Liberia together, and it requires the media support as well. I want to show you also that while I was in South Korea, we had extensive discussions on the diplomatic side regarding Liberians in prison, and it's linked to our passports. I asked them for a full listing of all Liberians in prison in Korea, because we might find that some there have carried out criminal activities with our passport, but they may not be Liberians. We also have diplomats in prison in Korea, and I've made an appeal to the government of Korea that our diplomats should be allowed to come and finish their term here in Liberia. We want our diplomats to please be given the opportunity to come home, and I'll officially register that, and hopefully that will be granted to us. I want to say something to all Liberians listening to me wherever you are. I'm proud to be a Liberian, and you should as well. When you see people selling our passports, and you see people carrying our passports who are not supposed to have it, our ordinary passport transfers nationality. It transfers nationality. And every time somebody takes our passport and uses it wrongly, it reduces your chance of your mobility. We used to have ordinary passport being allowed access to South Korea without visa. Because of the abuse of our passports, that privilege has been taken away. I've asked the government of Korea to please reconsider reinstituting our visa-free privilege, noting that we're working on strengthening our passports, and that is a conversation that's ongoing. Lastly, the Minister of Information said that my party was not a member. I have to just make this statement. Yes, my party was not a member. The party I'm a part of is not a member of the original rescue tree, but our party is a member of the UP Alliance and served as secretary to the UP Alliance as well. Thank you all so much.
So folks, you just listen to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Dean of the Cabinet. Her name is Madam Sarah Beslow Yeti, giving out some major thing that happens there in the South Korea, recent Korea Africa Business Summit, and several other national issues concerning the Liberian returnees from Ghana and the United Nations Security Council Steering Committee, which of course some of our deputy ministers are member of, the likes of Charlie Taylor, Sewaba, and of course Christiana Van Ray, also a member of that steering committee, which they will hope to be able to get the space that is vacant at the United Nations Security Council in New York.
I wanted to do this public forum. Thank the name of the president's cabinet. We now wait for an instruction from the president to see the importance of the Ministry of Information. I know there has been a debate about where the Ministry of Information should be back then. I told you the campaign period. I have a very radical belief we should have it. Because what is the point having a Ministry of Information when the very people who constitute the government of Nigeria, they don't care about that. They don't see it as a place that is supposed to be their voice or a platform that is supposed to use to tell the story of the government. But the Minister of Foreign Affairs has been at the forefront of giving that attention to this platform. Far in advance of the president making a case yesterday, which is so peaceful for me and the entire team. When we're trying to assemble a team here, we're doing so with the background that they will be people capable to work. And when the president said these words yesterday, which maybe some of you didn't hear it, that I would want to say. So let me remind you all again that this administration does not conduct its business on social media or on frequent talk show appearances. We have a competent, I want to stress that word, we have a competent and energized Ministry of Information, and that all ministries and agencies should speak through the ministry. Because by doing so, we allow them to do a strong statement of the president. It is my thinking that all of our colleagues in government listen to the voice of wisdom for the president who has been able to recognize that even on a very difficult situation, trying to do what we are mandated to do. But again, I say before the president would do this, the cabinet was at the forefront, giving real attention to the platform. Maybe somebody closer to her would be the guy from the comrade from the CSA. But others have come here too, including who is the Minister of Agriculture. He's been here. A number of them have been here. That is a full government approach that we go forward and see. Thank you. And so, because we said we want to be speaking for the entire government, we'll be following something that the Administrative Senate was 700,000 to post their retreat. Sometimes somebody believes when you look at it, until less than the chapter said, I want to know what 700,000 is. It's 4 days retreat. There are a total of 108 persons. security, their drivers, their base. Those are 408 persons. 4 days. In a hotel, eating everything. Their father. This is 700,000. That's propaganda. It's nasty propaganda. As a spokes agency for the government, as a group of people who are committed ourselves to speaking for the whole of government, we reach out to the adversary because we wanted the facts. We didn't want it to look like we didn't care. We wanted everybody as anything that our business. What the facts show is that the entire budget for a 4-day retreat in Grand Basso, this is the 45,000 plus some mixed expenditure, 3,000 plus maybe. That was the budget. Money did not come from the sky. Every government agency has a budget, including my ministry. They came from their budget. But importantly, it was 50,000, not 700,000. What kind of propaganda is that? Is it meant to incite people? Or to do what? So if you're sitting anywhere and you've heard from certain media outlets that 700,000 was spent for it, so it was a misleading. Spoken to the authorities, shown up documentation, giving up the fact, they spend that more than 50,000. Just wanted to correct this.
So there you have it. He's Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, Minister Jeremy Mathiopia. Next on this platform is the question and answer period here at the Ministry of Information.
Please direct your questions to the issue.
So I'm Princess David Opa, a report on TV Network. Basically, my question will go to the current ministry. I haven't listened to the synopsis regarding contesting at the UN election. Can you kindly tell us as to who Liberia will actually be going against, or how many countries that Liberia will actually be going against in the election? And if so, what level of strategy Liberia is actually tapping over in order to actually win the election? Another question. We want to know, with regards to the diplomats who are in prison in South Korea. These are Liberians and they are public figures. Can you kindly also outline the names of these diplomats to us and tell us what were some of those measures issued were actually involved in?
My question was let's talk about the government learning access. I'd like to know the exact location of the learning access.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, my name is Kunya Phillips. I work for the New Liberian League Statement. 2 questions for Mr. White, going to real, coming to memoranda. The critics like to say that all countries under the program, Kenya, for instance, they got money in that summit. But for you, there is some plenty of people who are coming with any money. What can you say to the critics? My last question is talk about the Qatar Airways. How soon can we see that coming to fruition? Thank you.
So the foreign minister have 4 questions.
Thank you. So in terms of,
let's have it quiet, please.
In terms of the UN Security Council seat, earlier this year when I attended the African Union Ministers' Council and the heads of state. Some of them had a discussion that we were trying to get full consensus that there was no competition, but unfortunately, we can't control that. We don't have that situation. So until the time for the election, we not really have a full consensus. So our campaign is important so that we get the full support of the ECOWAS countries and all ECOWAS countries will not that we get the votes from around the world. So right now, Liberia knows that Liberia and DRC are vying for seats, but the other African countries are vying for seats. So we're focused on our campaign. People in prison, it's not appropriate for me to stand here and share I can only the MOU, the critics said that we didn't get money. Let me share with you how these things work. We just won't get any money. There are processes that happened beforehand. We would have had to be engaging last year, engaging in joint commission and signing MOUs and so forth. Those key points I want to engage on before we get money assigned to us this year. So that's the process we're in now. Since we took over, we started that process, we continue that process. And that's why the president of Korea specifically asked the president of Nigeria for us to develop a package of proposal for infrastructure development, which we're working on as soon as possible. And that will then be able to indicate how much of the envelope will be in infrastructure development. But there are other areas we'll be engaging with Korea on as well to ensure that get maximum for the package that then be available to Africa. But it's not something where you move to somebody to sit there and just say, I'm going to give this amount of money. Work that has been done in 2023 and even 2022 that were resulted in that time to the two countries while we're in Korea now. We just started the process and we started this year, and for sure I can tell you that it was beneficial. It will remain beneficial. Qatar Airways, I cannot give you timing. Discussion started that we would like for Qatar Airways to come. The issue is volume. We have the traffic to attract it, and so the appeal we're making is that they attach us to Ghana. That it was going to do the dropping Ghana and coming part of that line. That's the appeal we're making. Working progress. Nothing I can see about what it will happen. What it will happen is it will be constructed. But before I say this, I would like to ask Mr. Muka or
more question for me. But let me just take the other question. Let me just ask
cabinet. Give us some answered question being asked by
you are a journalist.
Journalist, yeah.
Nobody goes to a conference and coming back with better money. Pay attention to what the conference is about. A major commitment was made. I don't know whether you people pay attention to that. Korea said they will invest 24, but this is how 15 billion of that amount will be given to Korean companies to empower them to invest in Africa. Quite an interest here. I will come out with 100 million. Or we have multiple Korean companies investing here to find jobs. We want. In addition to that, an additional 10 billion will be invested directly into African governments. It is that 10 billion we will tap in when the president said to us, as the minister mentioned, develop a proposal on your infrastructure program. Don't feel shame as a Liberian, you pass me letter, you issue inform all over the place. You know this would be an opportunity to solve that problem. So what would be an infrastructure package? Something Mr. President Waka is ordered for. President Waka said, obey. President Waka has said, roads. Any infrastructural program is submitted. As far as road development is concerned, I thought about you interesting. I mentioned here. Very money they say again. They want $120 million. We develop our package, and now $120 million. a billion or more. If you want to get a few million now, so you're 100 and something million, or a billion tomorrow, solve most of our problems. But most importantly, having Korean companies here providing jobs for our young people who don't have jobs. Don't follow the other people who get concerned about Korea. Oh, they're coming back and bring up. You've done yourself a favor to just look through those 7 MOUs of the one you say. Then listen to critics. Action with you in a very positive way. Way to do it is done. Yeah, pay attention to everybody, but go beyond the politics and pay attention to yourself. You are on the move. There are some people who say it's not us, no progress. Progress will be here because they can get rapping from the air and everything.
So we can start with questions.
Yes, yeah, and we'll go back to the question section. Stay here at the Information Ministry.
3 persons in the line. Yes, if people waited, we'll take one. So when I read some of the things and we vote for the Dora in my my minister, you spoke about the repatriation exercise in Ghana. People from Ghana are coming to Nigeria. In regard to our diplomats in South Korea, you still have all Liberians in other countries. And they want to have conditions that need to come back to Liberia, and how far is the government in regard to those who be repatriated and children get perfect education?
My name is Joe. Thank you for your question. We live in we spoke in Kenya. Represent Kenya has been taking and we brought I don't know when you intend to relocate Kenya. Take the level. How much do you need?
Your answer concerning my
That's the one. Minister has that was the one.
Yeah, straight to you. Straight to you. Of recent on this website, this ministry and focus was placed on corruption. This human speaking about it. Within just 5 months, your ministry and NC, at least 4 of us was involved in the corruption at NC. Of recent, NCC just published on their website involving major information and NC being involved into some corruption. Do you have any
corruption in the past of corruption?
No, I've been just correct that.
Generate?
The LSCC boss, the executive chairperson here, made a disclosure that the LSCC was investigating some administrative details. It listed the Ministry of Information. Then to clarify that whatever investigation that is ongoing does not involve the Ministry of Information on this administration. So until they can come out to speak to them, we can't speak to them, don't know. Yeah?
That's the major meeting somewhere that you see that now. That's not general.
Thank you. I'm Domingo. I write for the People's Newspaper in Oman. Madam Minister, recently there have been a crowd from Liberians, especially from Moxonal District materials and tenants from Oman, about the foreign embassy in Ghana being dilapidated condition and lack of employees at the foreign embassy in Ghana, which prevented him from getting his passport to travel to the European country we were going to. But my can't say that he put it into place to make sure you remedy such situation. Yeah.
So on the point in relation to Liberians in other parts of the world, one of the things we are doing, given the ministry's statutory responsibility for Liberians abroad, we are working on, we're developing a database to make sure we capture all Liberians abroad and try to understand what's happening. And so we have a diaspora consultant that's working on that. And in fact, in the next few weeks, we'll be going to Morocco to understudy because they develop a database and want to like that database for ourselves. Let me use that as a point of contact or opportunity to talk about other things that the foreign ministry as a ministry has been able to achieve while in Korea. You see my counterparts meeting other foreign ministers and engaging. I'm happy to announce here that we're able to land training in the areas of diplomacy, protocol, legal drafting, organizational events, and joint commissions for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but others as well who will be interested and will be working on the modalities for that. We're also able to get some logistics support from that trip, getting computers, getting vehicles as well for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and in addition to that, some support for the campaign. And the campaign team will be going to Morocco to work on the campaign very soon, like in the next 2 weeks. In addition to the situation with the Ghanaian embassy, it's not only in Ghana, it's all over the world. You can't fix the embassies if you don't have the funding to do so. If you look at the budget for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs this year, we do not even have the amount that we spent last year. So a lot of work has to be done to find innovative ways to be able to manage the situation as it were. How do we strengthen the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and make sure that all of the embassies and the people serving these embassies are taken care of? One of the things we discussed with the president that we're working on is an innovative approach to manage our properties. We own properties in places. Some properties we own we're not using. Some properties we're renting. We're looking at exorbitant rents, and so we're looking at an overall strategy to be able to make sure we have resources to address all of the embassies, right, to have the additional resources. We're looking at how we diversify our property management and property approach, where we are considering an approach of probably looking at smaller places in those places where we have the property is too large and more difficult to manage. Maybe having some trade-off, cheaper properties and help to fix other embassies. We're working on a strategy for that, and in the months to come, we hear more about it. So that we actually are able to support all of our embassies to upgrade them, furniture, vehicles, just face it. Most of them are dilapidated, but it's work in progress. The funds that we get from passports and consular services and so forth go to a consolidated account. And unfortunately, we do not have a mechanism to use some of that funding for the embassies there, and that's something we're discussing with LRA and the Ministry of Finance. How we can take an approach to make sure our embassies have the resources. I think this is the last question. I want to ask Minister Luther and Chairman Hugo to come forward, because what happened in Korea is not the usual. We didn't go and sit in hotels. When I tell you, while I was meeting the Minister of Agriculture in Seoul, the Minister of Agriculture of Korea in Seoul, our Minister of Agriculture was 2 hours away at a factory, at a plant. We had Chairman Bibo, who had, as we met these companies, we want to look at the manufacturing and look at the setup and so forth. A lot of work was done in the field looking at how we can do our private sector companies. This is I see a word as we go, I mean, all of us are into this thing.
So she's getting up the cabinet. And Sarah Bestowiti.
No, it's always all of this. So the Korean practice, let me take up on the opportunity. I didn't know where I think I saw Korean today. Because I drove out of Seoul for 2 hours following 190 meters, 5 to Dongo. Not the Dongo we had here, but far away, to go and see the Stage manufacturing factory, production factory. That factory we have conversation with Lucy, set up for Liberia. You know, as part of our national development plan for agriculture sector, one of the key value chains that will be developing. We have planned to cultivate 2,000 hectares of land for production. But this year we are doing 1,000 already on. We want to do mechanization, mechanized farming. So when these cassava producers go out there and produce, we need to have market for them. So we started a negotiation with this guy who has this large factory. We are encouraging you to come to Liberia and establish a plant that will buy the fresh cassava from our farmers and transform it into starch for us. That way we can create market opportunities for us. We have commitment from him, but he shows willingness to come back to Liberia and help us see how we can contribute to it. Also, we're able to engage in that besides a lot of understanding with the Africa-Korean Economic Development. That MOU, we are coming here to establish a biofertilizer plant. We will use our wastewater from our sewage, or even what we use as household waste, transform it into fertilizer that will be given to our farmers. To help us improve our productivity and the output of our agriculture sector. So the 7 MOU that were signed, 3 of them are going to be specifically focused on the agriculture sector. We have signed one with the agro-fishery industry. I should be helping our research, not just the fishery sector, but also helping our technicians at the Central Agricultural Research to do adopted research that will lead to smart agriculture. For all of my journey, I covered 350 kilometers to school on the train, the bullet train. That was 2 hours. So, yeah, look, it was a first. This guy manufactured agro machineries that are very adaptable. Alright, so he's going to be coming here. We were there online last night. He's supposed to be sending me a full proposal, and I will send a better invitation to come and explore the possibility of establishing a plan that will assemble agro machinery in Nigeria and service the markets around us, so there were concrete conversations held. Those conversations that were held, some of them will be some of them will take long time. The third memorandum of understanding is prepared to come to Nigeria and engage private sector actors in agriculture for me, who ask a farming and also engage other activities. They are even thinking of coming to do basket development. So that's what they're doing. They want to be able to use our arable land to also expand production of rice in this country. So there were a lot of things done. In the agriculture space, we made some progress. So we didn't just have a paper, those people will be backed by actions in the immediate future.
So he's the Minister of Agriculture, giving his part of a trip to South Korea for the Korea-Africa Business Summit.
I don't know of any investor that will come to your country to invest how efforts of the coordination. So it's important for the president to the investment community.
important to understand that Liberia as a country, new day. It's a new day in terms of rule of law, new day in terms of serving business people that when they come and make an investment. So we're communicating that to the business community in South Korea. Therefore important for us to follow that lead. I've said, I spent countless amount of hours visiting with companies in South Korea to understand their business and how their business impacts us here in life. So many of the businesses we visited, in fact, on the first day, a portion of companies, various sectors, sports, bridges, education, farming, it cuts across, in fact, the president's vision. That company took all this time trying to investigate in Korea those companies that would benefit. So the first MOU that I signed with them was with this company, this consortium of companies, to identify the areas in which we would benefit as a country. We've done that. But more importantly, with many of these MOUs that have been signed over the years and now, is to follow up that matters. So with the lead of our minister, we set up a committee to follow through on all the MOUs with all the companies. So starting since I arrived back in the country 2 years ago, all those companies to ensure that the benefits that we discussed in Korea. But Korea, as a country, just slightly above Liberia. The country Korea has 52 million people. The store alone has 10 million people. Korea as a country used to be a backward country for 40, 50 years. Done an amazing work. What I was impressed by Korea was the infrastructure. Korea, see that Koreans have invited before, and have a friend of it. The bridges are versatile. From the airport to our hotel, took an hour and a half. Because all of Korea is a bridge. What was interesting is that not one bridge was the same. You know, I think we learned a lot from Korea. Help us a lot. Infrastructure, building our infrastructure up, helping us with our education system. From farming to tourism, you name it. The president of full arrest nation. I'm excited about the opportunity, particularly for young people. We now have a country that has gone through similar experiences as ours, that's willing to partner with us. I think it's left with us as ministers in this government to follow through and ensure that the benefits that come to Liberia.
So his name is Jefferson Pembroke. He is the chairman of the National Investment Commission.
Thanks to all of my ministers here, and of the press. In a special way, I want to recognize a strong member of the network, Rogers from based in the U.S. Visiting and they're talking safety and what our press conference. Welcome and that you have safety. How would you do it? So, Nandi, thank you for coming. Minister, Chief of Finances, Thank you.
So, folks, that does it for today's edition of the special press briefing here at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. Thanks so kindly for following and always watching WB Online Television. My name is YSM Williams. Bidding you a pleasant good day.